Okay. No, I mean, some people do. I already knew. I kind of knew what your answer already was, but I just, I figured I was gonna ask just for the people.
It's just, but
Just
as for the people. Oh,
I-
that's mighty nice of you.
some people have those things. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of
Uh,
like, okay, all
yeah,
right, it sounds good, but
yeah. The practicality of it. That's
speaking
what
of
it
what
comes down to.
sounds good,
Uh-huh.
during the holidays, we normally have some people who um they during the holidays with the clients that you have and just
Mhm.
overall what was the if I just had to get the elevator version before we get started. I just want to ask this because I guess we already kind of into the podcast.
Mhm.
You know what, let's just go and dive.
Dive right on in.
So of course this is the Understanding a Man podcast, and so I want to thank everybody who has joined us. We're just gonna kick this year off. Wanted to do this with a man that just comes on stage. Y'all gonna hear how he do in a second or whatever. So my man James Bush. You know what, James? Before we, because I want to dive in, but first I want to give people like the elevated version of you. I know if they listen back maybe a couple of episodes, because this is maybe like your fourth, fifth time being on the
Mhm.
show.
Mhm.
Give everybody still just what your 411 is, who you are, where you at, what you do, and then we'll kind of jump because I'm eager to
Gotcha.
kind of like how,
The double dutch. Yeah, just
I'm
like
ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
double
I'm
dutch.
ready to jump in.
Right,
Okay, go ahead.
right. So my name is James Bush. I'm a licensed professional counselor in a bunch of states, maybe like 4, almost 5. Um, I love what I do. I work with clients. I take the journey with them. I'm also launching my second portion of my business. It's something which is of a passion of mine. Um, I'm a divorce transitional specialist, and
Okay.
that's something that is just it's pretty much as awesome to me because out of my counseling business, I see a lot of guys. I see a lot of ladies who they're getting stuck in what do I do next after I just said I don't no more. And so that's the thing that I'm very passionate. I'm looking forward to working with and seeing and developing more tools and opportunities in the coming 2022.
I, you totally shift. Okay, so everybody, James just shifted the whole conversation. He just shifted it. Because I want to. Somebody just said in their head, "What is a divorce transitional specialist? What is that, sir? What we talking about here?"
We're talking about the guy who takes the journey with you after you get a divorce or you've left a long-term relationship. And this can be something as well as too in a business partnership, because I'm also well versed in that. I've done talks and trainings in that around the world. But a lot of times people don't know how to move forward or how to move on because they're
Okay.
emoting, they're in pain, they're startled.
Okay.
You'd be amazed, Elam. Sometimes when a divorce happens, for
Okay.
one party, it's out of the ordinary, it's out the blue. They're like, what? Wait a minute now. We're doing what? How do we
Okay.
get? And so it's about putting the pieces back together. It's also
Okay.
about rediscovering yourself and learning how do you move forward? Where do you need to go? What do you need to do? And what are the steps? Oh, and also too, not getting sidetracked in all the muck and mire of your feelings in the meantime,
Ooh.
because that can keep you stagnated for the next 5 to 10 years of your life. Well, for guys, let's say the guy, he goes and he gets out of the situation, but now
Okay.
he has this newfound freedom or individualism. So what does he do? He goes and he runs amok with every Betty, Barbara,
Come on. Come
and
on.
Beatrice that he
Come
can
on.
find. But then
Yes,
again,
sir.
he's not actually going toward his purpose and he's not pursuing those things. He's just paying attention to all the distractions. And that's where the specialist, come in and say, man, snap out of it. It's like, okay, you left for a reason. You're out of that for a reason. Now it's time to lock hold and become who you are. You are Caesar.
Well, before somebody can even understand, because maybe, and I'm gonna go baseline on this for a
Okay.
second, and so I know you know how we do, we just get to talking and it
That's
goes
up.
in a
That's up.
direction. So I'm feeling the energy, so I'm gonna go here. Is that okay?
That's what's up.
As you're talking right now, you're talking as if okay, obviously divorce is a process,
Mm-hmm.
and legally or whatever.
Yes.
But you're talking more along the line of emotional. Can you, if you are the transitional specialist,
Mm-hmm.
okay, can you, if you want, and you said something that it could almost seem offensive for a
Mm,
second. And I'm just
okay.
gonna say to us as men, right?
Hmm.
Um, as this, you're going through emotional, and I'm not gonna give you word for word of what you just said, but it was something along the lines of it would seem like, okay, well, there's emotional portions that exist here, sir. So maybe you don't understand them or whatever. Um, what is the transition? Is there a trans well, excuse me, there is a transition. What does
Hmm.
this look like? How do you coach people in this area of their feelings, of their emotions? What does that look like?
Well, one of the first things you have to do is you have to help them to not stay stuck in where they were before. You have to help them to see that there's a future in front of them. You have to help them see that there is opportunity, that they have a chance to be that individual that they've always wanted to be. Also, practical steps, tools.
Okay.
For instance, you've got little Johnny and little June. Now, guess what? You're going to have to be more involved in their life, probably than you have been before, because before there was two, now there's one, which is you. So when
Right.
that said, you have to go and what do you need moving forward? Is it a driver? Is it someone to help you make meals? Do you know about HelloFresh or whatever it is that are you spending quality time with them? No, what type of time? Are you getting to know them? I mean, there's so many different things that come into play as you are making this transition, not only to better yourself, but man, those who are attached and connected with you. I think that is so important. Then some guys that said, you know what, James, I'm ready to start dating. I said, what's up, Bob? Let's do that. Let's start dating. But before you start that, here's some of the things that you might want to look for. Guess what? Dating was differently back when you got married the first time than it is now. There are a lot of different pitfalls. It's a different mentality. The
Right.
I guess that the spirit of the age, what they call sometimes the zeitgeist, I learned it at Fisk University, has
Okay.
shifted from what it was. So now we have to go and do reframe our minds from what we thought it was to what it
Mhm.
is now. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes guys making that shift is somewhat of a challenge. That's why you
Right.
need someone to walk the walk with you.
Why is the transition? Is there a difference between the transition with men versus women? I know that
I
that's this is
truly
that's this
believe it is.
this is a
Oh,
30
yes.
minute conversation, but
Oh,
is it,
yes.
if you want to give like the overview, is there a transition that's different than maybe, yeah, just men versus women? What does it look like?
So I've had clients where I've had women who've come in and said, well, James, I've taken the time and
Is that
I've,
the way their voice tone is?
oh,
that's
yes,
how.
yes.
Okay,
It comes on an
so
open,
start it
it's
off
on,
again. So how does it
it's
start off?
so James, I've taken the time and I've got out of my marriage. I got out before the 10-year mark because I didn't want to pay any alimony to them. I said, well, sister, so you do that, right? You own your
Okay.
money, right? But I got out before the end. So now I've taken this, I've been out, I've been divorced for 2 years now. And
Mm-hmm.
I've not dated and I've read my books and I've took time to
You still
heal.
got that voice tone, I guess.
I've healed, and I'm like, okay, so it's like that. Okay, cool. And so
Okay. Okay.
she
Okay.
in her mind, she's done what she saw on every social media platform has told her about moving forward. Is that
Right.
I can achieve my full healing by following the steps, going, finding myself, rediscovering myself, uh, doing things in that nature that I'm taking time into getting my mind right about this. And I'm there to bust her bubble because I'm going to tell her that everything that you learned in those books was helpful, but
Right.
it's not going to prove all effective when you get out in that animal called the world.
Ooh.
That's what
Break
I'm there
that.
for.
Take that a step further for me. Why? Why?
Why? Because oh gosh. So
Oh, you,
when you're in class,
okay.
you're learning a lot of theory. You learn a lot of theory about what could happen or
Okay.
some of the things that are possibilities, as I should say
Okay.
that.
Okay.
But the thing is that you don't have the actual test. You're not at game speed. That's what I try to tell them. When you're
Right.
at game speed, you know the flow of the game. It's funny when you have guys who go from high school football to college football. They say the game is faster. When they go from college football to the professional rank, the game is way faster. Everybody's good in this
Right.
thing. So guess what?
Okay.
When you get out there into the society and you get out there with the Ray Rays and the Pookies and everything like that, they didn't read Ayala Van Zant's book. They don't care
Okay.
about that. All
Right.
they're looking at is they're just being, they're living.
Right.
And so
Right.
for my sisters, what I'm trying to encourage them to do is to say, hey, look, you have to know how to govern yourself when you get out there. Now, sometimes when you get out there, you'll see
Okay.
Ray Ray and Pookie pull something out of you that you didn't even know was in you.
Right. Right.
Ayala didn't tell you, Oprah didn't tell you, you know, Gail didn't tell you, but it's there. And so what I try to do is help you, plan for those possibilities. We correct them and reshape and reframe what it could be future wise. That's some of the difference when it comes to women versus guys. Guys are a little bit different.
Okay, that's what I was going. Yeah, talk to the men real quick. Like, what are we like?
Well, sometimes it depends on what the previous relationship was like.
Okay.
You may have had a guy who he didn't. Oh gosh, Jesus.
Come on, Holy Spirit, download it to him, give it to him, Lord.
He was in possibly a sexless relationship.
Okay.
Maybe he was not the most sought after guy when he was in high school, all throughout college. And so now, by some act of the Lord, he got married. He found someone to say, I do. And he thought this thing was going to last forever and it was going to be what it was going to be.
Yes, sir.
But then all of a sudden, as they say, 80 to 90% of females initiate divorces. And he was one of them. So then what happened was that he got caught off guard. And now he's in his mind thinking, will I ever find love again?
Right.
Is it possible? Also, too, during the relationship, he lost pieces of himself.
Right.
Because guess what? In our society, he's been socialized to go and pander, cater, and possibly give pieces of himself to try to make someone happy, when on all actuality, you can't make people happy. He lost that message. He wasn't given that information. You have to be your most authentic self. When you do that, you will walk in a path where that other person possibly can walk alongside of you, and you guys can build together and do great things.
Come on.
But he didn't get that.
Come on.
So now I'm helping him to find one, not only himself, but discover a future template. That future template is what's going to help propel him and as a guy. And when I try to tell him, it's like, look, you're going to have all types of distractions out there.
Listen, man, what you're saying, it sounds good or whatever, but this is not something that we were taught. This is not something that that we were raised upon. And so I always I sometimes like to just use the verse of, be not conformed to this world, but be you renewed. But at the same time, this is the transition from me being strong and me even showing some of these emotions that I have right here. It's a whole ball of wax for some men, because they weren't taught about their emotions, and now they're feeling some emotion and they're going through a life transition. That's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yes.
And so if you had to speak to the manly man, or the one that's feeling some type of way but doesn't even know like the path forward from there, like what would you give? And I want you to take baby steps on this. And the reason why is because I've been in this situation to whereas I had absolutely no idea what to do, and reaching out was not something that I was thinking about doing.
Right.
So I need you to give me kind of like the baby steps of what to do if I'm in a conundrum right now of the divorce, of my feelings, of life happening, COVID. People don't come to work. you know what I'm saying? Like, what? Give me something, man, because you just telling me that, yeah, I'm gonna go through something, but I'm not used to talking to people.
Right. And so right now I'm going to make you uncomfortable, because in order for you to get to the place that is not where you're at right now, you're going to become uncomfortable. You're going to have to look at yourself a whole lot differently than you ever had before.
Okay.
So that just as maybe some of you, the fellas that they played Pee-wee football and they were challenged to get out of themselves and bring more than they actually were, because that's what a coach is. I see the potential in you. My job is to pull what I can pull out of you.
Right.
If you don't avail yourself to that, then what are we doing? I make this simple statement. A wide receiver lines up and maybe in the slot. He's getting jammed. Coach, I can't get off, man. I'm getting jammed. I can't get free from him. My job is to tell you, okay, this is what's happening, but these are some tools and techniques that we can utilize so you can have more success. And then maybe you can catch one over the left shoulder.
Come on.
So let me break that down in for these terms. Okay. You've struggled with low self-esteem. You struggle with low self-worth. You didn't believe that you can achieve certain aspects in your life. You felt like you've given everything that you had to this other partner, and she left. You feel broken. You feel lost. But what I'm here to do is I'm here to show you, well, potentially you may have a blessing on your hands. You just don't know it. You don't see it. I'm here to show you that you're not the only one that has traveled this road, and you're not the last one. There are others that have come before you, but have gone on to do great things. All you have to do is apply yourself in this moment. And again, that means you're going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to ask you to talk about your feelings. I'm going to ask you, man, to challenge you to go and actually educate yourself, inform yourself on you. What are you like? We're going to increase your emotional intelligence. That's a big word, but I'm going to teach you what your emotional intelligence. I'm going to increase your self-awareness, who you are, what you like.
Right.
I want you to rediscover yourself, because possibly if you were in a relationship or so like that, you spent a lot of time giving a lot of yourself away.
Listen, you're talking to me about rediscovering myself, and it's like going from uncomfortable to uncomfortable. Because I guess it's kind of like first, there's an acknowledgement of where I'm at, and then it's the second part of maybe that I need to walk through a process. And this is what I like to just share sometimes with men, particularly those who have been in sports. We're willing to submit to coaches on the field. We do that. We're bigger than them, we're badder than them or whatever, but he can cuss you, slam out, and you're gonna go do what's necessary, right? Because the goal is to get to the win. I think that in this space there is a level of humility that we need to also exude inside of the self-awareness area of if we're walking inside of, let's just say from a divorce perspective of you're about to go through an amalgam of emotions. I know that there might be finances that you look at, or maybe you're being away from your family is another one that you look at. But I think that it's important to recognize that, gentlemen, and this is for ladies or gentlemen, but just with it being more of a man-driven and understanding that we try to do on the show here, men, you're gonna go through something. You're gonna go through some emotions, and I think that it's important to make sure that you have, and James, you being, a therapist is somebody that individuals can reach out to, and, you can feel free to give your contact information in that regard or whatever. But even not that, I like to start with just saying to individuals, like, make sure that you have a mentor. Make sure that you have somebody that you can go to, because you can't keep this stuff bottled up inside. It's too much. It's too much. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I definitely agree with that. I went to someone and I talked to them because I needed guidance. I had never been through a divorce before. So going through it, I said, oh yeah, that makes sense. This works and that doesn't work. So then it's funny, because then when I started working with, after I went through my divorce, then all of a sudden, all these other guys that just started flocking to me. And it was like, man, I'm in this process right now. Help me out, man. Sometimes I would be at church, my phone would go off. I usually don't ring. I don't usually have my phone on, or I usually don't take the call. For some reason, I saw the name, I took the call. This guy was on his way. He's on his way to do bodily harm to the guy his soon to be ex was cheating with, and yeah, and he's like, I'm about to go over there and I'm about to tell his wife that he's not a good person. I'm like, you go over there and you're gonna be wearing an orange jumper by the evening.
Come on. Come on, sir. Back them down, sir. Back them down from that real quick.
Or man, I've
Those
had guys,
emotional moments come up. Back
those
them down from
emotional
that for a second.
moments come up. Or I've had guys who they've again another infidelity of their female partner has done to them or so like that. They call me 2:00 in the morning, 1:00 in the morning. Man, James, man, I can't take this, man. I'm about to blow this head off.
Mm-hmm.
You think you can do it alone. You think when all of a sudden the court papers are filed and you have attorneys telling you what you can and can't do, you have a judge signing and saying what you can and can't do, you don't think that's going to affect you in some type of way?
Speak on that.
Especially when us as men, we are hunters, we're gatherers, we're providers, we're warriors. All of a sudden, and now we are somewhat lowered to a standard by an institution that really is not for us and really wasn't created for us as well.
Right.
You think that won't affect you? You think that won't incite the rage, the anger? You think that I won't want you make you?
Can we rest on that? And then I'm gonna go into a part 2 in a second. I want to rest on that area right there because that aspect is sometimes it might be looked upon as okay, this is just a part of the process. But you know, as a man, you're walking through that space, and so you know somebody telling you this is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Is if he's feeling some type of way about that, is that crazy? Does that, you know, talk to him?
I mean, yeah, it is crazy. It does suck. But the thing is that what I try to advise any of my clients, you were able to accumulate and get that wealth at one time. Because a lot of times it comes down to money for guys. You were able to accumulate that. Guess what? My statistics show me that you'll be even do maybe double or triple that on the other side. Mm-hmm. You just got to get there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be able to withstand the storm. It's like they used to teach me in basketball. Every team makes a run in the NBA. You've got to withstand the run.
Right. But what about the okay, come on.
One thing I like about before Phil Jackson started saying all kinds of crazy stuff, one thing I used to love about him was that when the Bulls or the Lakers, when there was a run that happened against them, instead of him calling the timeout, he said, leave them out there. Okay. Let them see if they can figure it out.
Okay.
And in that moment, they were learning about how to navigate one themselves, not to come apart as a team, but to also, man, withstand whatever onslaught was coming at that point. And that's what I tell for my gentlemen or so as well too, is that you're going to be hit with certain things. Okay. You know, you're going to have these awkward moments with the ex. You're going to have these awkward moments when it comes to your children. You're going to have these range of emotions. It comes in waves as well too. It's especially when you're in a space where you're about to buy a home, and then all of a sudden, you know, the mortgage lender says, man, well, you got this, you got that, you got great. Oh man, you got child support and alimony. That's hurting your DTI. And then all of a sudden, the emotions and the feelings start to come all over again.
Would go through the roof at that point. But like, yo, so are you kidding me?
You're going to have that happen.
How does somebody navigate through that moment? I could only imagine. I'm about to apply for a loan. And I'm like, okay, like everything else is good.
Yeah.
Child support?
Child support.
So she gets to use it as a positive.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a negative.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I could just pay you cash. You get like a total, like it's oof. That's let's take a pause right here. We're gonna go into like a part 2 real quick because I think that we have to unpack this in this season. And it's only because there's a lot of people that I know that's just in this space, and there's a lot of men that are in this space, and a lot of times men are not honest with themselves inside of their marriages because of these spaces. right? And so, ladies, I actually want to say to you, do you actually might have a man that is with you right now, that because he knows what the stuff that we're saying right now, he's still with you. My question would be, do you really want him to stay with you with these parameters? I really want to ask that question because I know it's not a popular question. It's not. But the cheaper the keeper is real. Okay. The same way that it's out there that, a happy wife, happy life. And it's like, that's like the dun, 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 like that sounds good. Okay. Over here on the man side. Okay. The cheaper the keeper is real. Okay. Do you really want your man to stay with you because it's less expensive for him? Do you really want your man to stay with you because he's going to see his children less? Up until 14, we ladies, we know you run it. Up until 14 years old, that's the only time that he has a last ditch effort, and the child has to say it. So I would think that there would almost need to be an augmentation of I would want the augmentation of the laws that exist out there, because it almost perpetuates toxicity in a relationship, because you have people who are staying together and there might be a party, male or female, because it's not always the male that's making the most amount, right? But that's traditionally what we're seeing out here, right? But even for the females, you have people who are staying together because they don't want to let go of the empire that they might have built.
It's a matter of
what do you say to those people?
But it's a matter of convenience and helping them to understand, that, okay, you can stay in that situation, but let's examine yourself. You don't want to go home at night. You pull up to the house and you sit in the car for about an hour, woosah, woosah. so that you can get your mind together so you can go in the home and address this person.
Right.
You feel rejected when you're in the marital bedroom. You couldn't get laid on Labor Day. It's one of those things where you just say to yourself, how long do you want to stay in a situation like that out of a convenience? Oh, also too, guess what? If you have children, your children are watching you.
Oh, I knew you was about to go there with it. Oh,
they're watching you. What are you teaching? What behavior are you modeling for them?
Right.
Would you want your son? Because guys, we love our sons. We love our daughters too, but we love our sons. Would you want your son to go through a similar situation as you?
That's the question that I normally ask men or women. I ask that question in that regard. But I ask, but it actually can go for, would you want your daughter to just say she is gonna stay?
And it can say, can say that as well.
It can go either way.
It's one of those things where there's a state illustration where, and I'm going to butcher it on purpose, but I'm going to make a point.
Right.
Where when some people, they transition and they pass and they get to heaven or so, and there's these buildings, and there's this one building that the angels are leading you to, and he said, like, what is in that building? And he takes you in there, and all of a sudden you just look at it, and there's all these boxes and gifts and illustrious items. And he tells that person, oh, these are the things you didn't have faith enough to receive. So then we look at the human being and we look at their potential, what they were created to do, their purpose in life.
Right.
Because they were in a situation that they weren't supposed to be and they weren't planted correctly, they possibly turned to alcoholism.
Right.
Kidney failure. They turned to opioids.
Right.
Overdose. They were stagnant. Their dreams, their visions, their goals, and things like that, they didn't materialize because they were out of place. And they were dying on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So the person that we were expecting to see to do great feats and great, wonderful, nah. He's out of place. He's scared. He's got fear. I tell my fellas, man, you should never be ran by any kind of fear of anything. And if you are, we got problems.
Okay, and so this is what I want to do. I'm gonna have to clip that real quick, man, because when you say you shouldn't be worried about things, but you're talking about in a situation to whereas the court system is not as favorable.
It's not
as it needs to be. So when you say that you should not be in fear and you should not, the way these streets look, but real quick, how can people follow you? And so we're gonna roll into part 2 into a second. So how can folks follow you, man?
You can look for me on Instagram, IG at Mind of a Man Podcast, or you can also reach out to me. You can find me via email, james@justjamesbush.com. That's james@justjamesbush.com. Or you can do find me on my website, bushcounselingservices.com. I'm on Twitter. I'm on TikTok, Mind of a Man. I'm on Clubhouse as well too. I'm everywhere,
And that's like my man's and them right there. That's Mr. James Bush. I put the Understanding a Man stamp on my man James Bush. I love every angle that he comes from, and y'all gonna see him on here like James Bush is like every quarter he's an automatic, like he's like a reoccurring guest, so y'all gonna always see him on here.